Hi my love, it is Kay. I hope you're having a wonderful day, morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are, whatever the time is, at the time that you are catching this video up on Patreon. So today I'm going to go through with you really quickly how you can locate a new moon in your chart. Now you can take this concept and you can do it for every new moon that follows for as long as you are in this life incarnation. Once you know how to do it once, you can keep going with it. So what you're going to need is your date of birth, your time of birth, your location of birth, your actual birth chart itself, and if you click the link by this video somewhere, there will be a link for my website where you can download your own birth chart for free. If you don't have the actual precise time of your date of birth, then there are two things you can do. First thing is to try and narrow it down to the nearest 2 hours or within 2 hours of when you thought you were born. And the reason why we say 2 hours in astrology and not more than this, if you can help it, is because roughly every 2 hours in the sky there is movement. So this means the ascendant is going to move, potentially a planet could shift. So if you pull a chart that's more than 2 hours within your actual time of birth, you could get an inaccurate chart, and it may not be a chart for actually you. Your ascendant could be very different, for example, and the ascendant, as you probably know, is quite key in astrology. It's key to know what that is. Now, failing this, if you can't actually narrow it down to 2 hours, what you can do is do what we call a midday chart. And this would mean that when you go in and you put the time in to download your birth chart, just put in midday, like 12 midday. And the chart that will give you is a chart that shows basically on average where the planets were for that day. So the sun at 12 midday would be at the highest point in the sky, and on average, you know, it's an average chart for the day, like an overview of the day, you could say. So you can do one of those two things if you don't know your actual time of birth. You'll also need the time and date of the new moon that you want to look at. Okay, so here's an example that we're going to go through to look at how we can locate a new moon. The example that we're going to use is Britney Spears. She is my most favorite Sagittarius in the world. I'm a big fan. I do like to look at her chart every now and again and use her as an example because she's been through so much and her chart is quite teachable. It's quite good to teach people things. So here we've got Britney over on the right hand side. The first thing that we're going to need is to understand that on a chart, each line that is by a house where we have a number is going to be ruled by a sign, and this is what we call house rulership in astrology. So for example, if we look at Britney, we've got house 1 and we can see where I've written Libra because we've got the sign for Libra there. We've got house 2 and we've got the sign for Libra there and I've written Libra. Then we've got house 3 and we've got the sign for Scorpio and I've written Scorpio there. Now what is key about Britney's chart and why I've used Britney as an example is because Britney has got something called interception in her birth chart. And if you watch the full moon video, I explained there again. I'll try not to repeat myself too much, but house interception is such a special, unique, and very, very rare thing to find in birth charts. And I have a house interception. She has one. And of all the charts that I've read in the years that I've known about astrology, in the years that I've become qualified as an astrologer, I've only ever come across one other person, one other client other than myself and Britney, who had an intercepted house. And what this basically means in astrology is that one sign is swallowed up into this person's chart. So this sign or this energy does not actually vibe with that person, meaning that energy does not rule an area of their life. So you could say it's a lack, you could say, in that person's personality or that person's experience. And the reason why they have that lack is because of, if you believe in past lives, astrology, which I very much do, it said that what they exited their last life with, the life that they came from before the one that they entered this one with the house interception, there was something that they didn't complete, or there was a mission that they didn't do, or a lesson that they didn't learn, or a part of their personality or their own self that they didn't quite get to develop. So they've come into this life with the interception to work on it here. And that is why it's, if you do have an interception, it's great to understand what that interception is showing you. Now with Britney, you can see that what has doubled up on her chart is Libra. So she overexerts Libra. Yeah, and if you've got a house interception with Libra as the double up, the opposite sign of that sign that doubles up is obviously going to have the same thing. So if we look across her chart on the house 7 and 8, we can see, sorry, not 7, 8, on houses 7 and, yep, 7 and 8, trust myself, on houses 7 and 8, you can see that she's got a double up of the sign Aries. She's got 2 lots of Aries. So this means that the signs that are missing are what she needs to work on. So for Brittany, if you look where she's got house 3, and you can see Scorpio sign, if you look in the middle of house 3 where she's got all those 4 planets all under the energy of Sagittarius right by her sun, what has she got there? She's got the sign for Sagittarius. So clearly for Brittany, the energy of Sagittarius is something that she needs to work on in this lifetime. That is what she's lacking. And it's funny, she's a Sagittarius sun sign as well, but that is the sign that's intercepted. So if we go across from that, the opposite sign to Sagittarius is going to be intercepted in another part of her life, and you've got Gemini in house 9. So Gemini is in the middle of that house, if you can see it. So Gemini is the other energy that she needs to work with Sagittarius in those areas of her life to basically become the greatest version of herself. And I love me some Brittany, and she's been through a hell of a lot. We are of very similar age. You know, we've got a couple of years between us, and I grew up with her, and to see what she's gone through and how she's changed, and to then become an astrologer and look at her chart, it was very, very interesting for me. So this is what we mean by house interception. And so I've showed you this so that you could recognize it in your own chart if you have it, or another chart if you come across it. So back to what we're looking at today. If, for example, we had a new moon in Pisces, then we would continue along our chart and we would look for the sign of Pisces. So if we keep going from house 4, we can see the sign for Capricorn, then house 5, we can see Aquarius, then house 6, we can see Pisces finally. So if we had a new moon in Pisces for Brittany, it would fall in her 6th house. And you would take that same principle. You would take the same thing. If you had a new moon in Pisces happening, you would look along your chart, look along, locate the sign for Pisces, and then that is where that actual new moon is going to happen for you. And that's your starting point. You can say to yourself, okay, this is where the new moon is going to be for me. This is where the energy is vibrating, and you can see what else is going on from that point. I would say is a good tip as well. It's good to try and understand or remember or have to hand some kind of resource with the astrology signs, the horoscope signs, because then you can locate on your chart quite quickly where the new or full moon or whatever it would be in your chart, if you have a quick memory and a quick understanding of what the actual signs look like. So let's have a look at another example for Brittany. So say for example, we have a new moon in Aries. So we know what to do now. We know that it's in Aries. We look along the chart. We go from house 1. We can see Libra, Scorpio. We can see Sag intercepted in house 3, Capricorn. Then we've got Aquarius on house 5, Pisces house 6. And then finally we reach Aries, the symbol for Aries, on her 7th house. But as I said to you, with Brittany's interception and her double up of Libra, she's going to have a double up of obviously Aries, the opposite sign of Libra. So for her, the new moon in Aries would fall somewhere in her 7th or 8th house. And how we would narrow this down is by knowing the degree. So say for example, we had a new moon in Aries at 5 degrees. If we look on Brittany's chart, we can see house 7 starts at 0 degrees of Aries. So we obviously know then that if that 5 degree Aries new moon is going to fall obviously in her 7th house. If it was later, if I'm moving a little bit more, I think the 8th house starts at, what is that, 28 I can see on the screen? I think that's 28 if I squint. Then if it was at later degrees, maybe say 28, 29, then we know, okay, this is probably going to pop into her 8th house, like near the cusp though, very, very near the cusp of her 8th house. And the new moon is going to fall there rather than in her 7th house. If we have a new moon and you have an intercepted house, just like Brittany, just like myself, and you know where the new moon is, it's key to know what the degree is, because then you will be able to tell whether it is going to be in your 7th house, your 8th house, your 2nd house, your 3rd house, whatever, you know, house that is doubled up if it's in a doubled up sign. If it's not in a doubled up sign and it's just your average sign, say for example we had a new moon in, let's look at Brittany's chart, you know, Aquarius, okay, we could just look at her chart very very quickly and say, okay, then it's going to be in her 5th house because Aquarius is ruling the 5th house. So that's what we call house rulership in astrology, as a very very quick 101, and that is what we mean when we talk about house interception. And this is probably a key thing to understand, especially if you have it in your own chart as well. Now if you have any questions, drop them below the video. I'll try and respond to you as quickly as possible, or you can send me a message here on Patreon. If anything doesn't make sense to you, you can check out the links as well, and also grab your free birth chart download if you don't have that already from my website. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this makes a lot of sense to you, and now you are well equipped to go out there and basically know where any energy will fall in your chart when it comes to a new or a full moon. And if you haven't caught the full moon version of this video, then it will be here somewhere on Patreon, very close to where you found this video as well. And it basically is the same principle. It's no different. All you need is the sign and to know what part of your chart is ruled by that particular sign. So have a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, and I will catch you in the next video.